Hey, Gobin here, again, for an Ask Guoba after many months. I feel with the Creator Experience server, I can use this video to help you prepare for units better before you go and spend your paycheck on them. In this video, I'll be answering frequently asked questions on Robin. There were many questions that were answered in my guide, so remember, if you have a question, it may be answered somewhere there. Today we'll go over some already answered ones, but mostly new ones that further expand on the guide. I'm not the be-all, end-all of information, and others might find other results, so be sure to look at other sources. Anyways, smash that subscribe button if you want me to sing Robin's full ultimate song, and let's begin. A very common question in my stream and comments was about pulling Robin if you have all 3 5-star harmonies already. I personally do not think you should, but eventually you're going to have 2 fully limited teams, and at that point, what do you pull? A new DPS would also just be replacing your old one. Anyway, I think if you have Bronya, Ruan Mei, Sparkle, you do not need to pull Robin, even for follow-up. She is the best harmony for follow-up, so if you want the best follow-up team right now or want to continue building into the follow-up niche, then she is a great pickup. If you don't care, then you are fine without Robin. If you have 2 of the 5 stars, then she gains a bit more value, specifically if you missed Ruan Mei, as Robin can act as a better or worse Ruan Mei replacement in every team composition she already runs in. If you have just 1 5-star harmony unit, I would pick her up if you care for your account or meta. And finally, if you have them all but just really want Robin and like her design, don't worry about pull efficiency or account value or meta, just pull your beloved Singer. She is the most fun harmony in the game right now and even one of the most fun units in the game in general. Next, we have Speed and High Speed Robin. In my main guide, I go over why Speed is essentially not doing anything past 120, 121, and sometimes even lower for 99% of players. Even for the 1%, sometimes you have to go all the way up to 180 for a benefit. It's because her ult is so RNG to properly account for in a rotation, and the fact that she is most of the time stuck to the 90 speed Concerto. As for energy, she can kill steal with her Concerto attacks, she can absorb hits, she can get quid pro quo from your healer, and the content could change things too. Aventurine can steal energy, for example. The MOC buff can give you energy. That means any speed breakpoints that exist can work sometimes, but not every time, so really building high speed for a hope that stuff works out. Now let's see this AV map from Reddit about 157 speed Robin. It essentially sets Robin at an AV in which she gives a 134 speed DPS, an extra turn, just before waves 2's second cycle and third cycle, all in one breakpoint. It is a nice breakpoint, to be honest, considering 99% of breakpoints I calculated on my chart were useless because of previous reasons of being too specific. But let's see how this 157 speed Robin can go wrong. 1. You don't clear wave 1 with Concerto still up. Your breakpoint is now completely irrelevant. 2. Your DPS is much faster than 134 speed, like 160-ish for a dot team. This breakpoint no longer applies. 3. Your DPS is slower than 134 speed. This breakpoint would not work unless you have advanced forward or speed buffs. 4. You ult on the first action when Robin exits Concerto instead of 2 actions. If you are extending Concerto to wave 2 and have her best follow-up team, there's a chance you ult instantly instead of 1 extra turn like this chart indicates. 5. You get slowed or CC'd or delayed on your DPS or Robin. MSC 12 has slows, delays, and a bunch of CC. 6. If you're a baller, you clear before these cycle breakpoints matter, so 120 would have just been more Robin damage. 7. Finally, if your team is weak, you'll clear after these cycle breakpoints matter, so 120 would have just been more damage and help, and you could have focused your time on farming DPS relics instead. And then all of this only matters if you want a low cycle clear. This would be like a 1 to 2 cycle clear. 157 speed is the best breakpoint I've seen out of way too fast speeds of 180 though, but this goes back to why I didn't recommend higher speed. Even if you can optimize X amount of ults in X amount of AV, that won't always happen, and I can't just give you 100 speed breakpoints and expect you to build for each scenario. So you might see another speed breakpoint later on elsewhere, make sure it fits what you can do. I even ran 157 speed Vonwacq Robin on the Creator Experience server, and 157 speed actually cleared a bit slower since I was slowed from the first wave and my rotation was thus bricked. 180 speed with Vonwacq is another tech, and it's for low cycle clears too, getting you right behind your DPS's first action rather than second action. You can thus give them what a 120 Robin can already do, but 1 action earlier. This only matters for 0 cycling the first wave, but it is an optimization. This speed requirement can be lessened with ally action advance or speed buffs too. But holy 180 speed. As for energy rotations, again it is super subject to RNG, but you should be aiming to get a 3-turn ult minimum, with 2 turns being ideal, including the turn you exit Concerto. Redwin has a chart of how many ally attacks you need for a 3-turn rotation. I rarely had a 3-turn ult rotation though, it was pretty much always 2. That is with Signature and Vonwacq plus Energy Rope. However, a Broneucone can replicate this or quid pro quo from allies. Basically, you should just stack a ton of energy and skill early if you need to get to her ult ASAP. Another common question was about the rat team and who is more essential to pick up. If you started before 2.2, you will have ratios, so we're looking at Robin, Topaz, Aventurine. Luckily, all 3 are back-to-back within the span of one patch. If you can only pick up one and you lack the other 2, I would say Robin or Aventurine. Robin is if you lack other 5-star harmony units, Aventurine if you lack 2 limited sustains or just strong ones in general. If you lack both, then consider how you're clearing content. Are you dying or on low health too much, or are you lacking the damage a 5-star harmony could provide? Considering new players, I'd say Aventurine Sustain is a much nicer benefit to your runs, especially for those pesky story mode bosses. Now say you have one of them and you're looking for another, who do we choose? Well, that is extremely hard to tell. If you're not already swayed by one specific design and kit and how fun they are, we'll have to try and get nerdy with it. In clear times with not min-maxed relics, we got a clear speed on MOC 12 with Aventurine ratio Topaz Robin of 2 cycles, with it being very close to a 1 cycle, even with DPS's relics being a bit rough. Swapping Aventurine to quid pro quo Huohuo got us a 3 cycle clear, and it felt much worse to play. Swapping Topaz to Silverwolf got us a 3 cycle clear, but it was very close to 2 cycles, and it felt okay to play, though implant RNG was there. Swapping Robin to Ruan Mei dropped a cycle as well, but felt fine to play, and with E1 Ruan Mei, we got the same cycle count. It all depends on what you want, what you feel is more universal, and who you have already. Now, speaking of the rat team, a lot want to know how bad it is to not have E1 or S1 Topaz. Well, I definitely think in the rat team, you should have at least S1 Aventurine, E1 Topaz, or S1 Topaz, with S1 Aventurine being my favorite to pick up due to the AoE debuff. After that, you are okay in my opinion. With breaks, MOC debuffs sometimes, self-inflicted buffs, and the base team's 3 debuffs, you're doing fine. 3 debuffs is what you want to hit on a target for ratio, 5 debuffs is only a 20% damage buff. So prioritize the 3, then 5 can be a bonus. In fact, in my Doctor Ratio Hypercarry simulations, you only lose 4% overall DPS on a single target. If Apocalyptic Shadow is indeed single target focused, you don't even need S1 of Topaz or Aventurine, since you have 3 debuffs consistently. For MOC though, I try picking up one of the 3 debuff upgrades. And since we're on the topic, Pella is worse than E0 S0 Topaz by a bunch in this team. You get so much value for Topaz from all 3 units, it really is the Exodia follow-up comp. Without Topaz, you get less Aventurine follow-ups, less damage amp for ratio and Aventurine, and less Robin damage procs. I lost a cycle, even 2 cycles sometimes with Pella, but I'm sure in general it's just a 1 cycle loss since the 2 cycle drop was pretty unlucky. For non-follow-up teams or general DPS, she still works great. She is after all an insane buffer with buffs stronger than a Ting Yuan, even for a single DPS. She lacks the energy gifting onto a single carry, so that can be annoying for units like Jing Yuan, but her buffs really are great and universal. Remember that buff tally we did on the main guide? That applies to all units, which can mean 2 to 3 DPS, or even just 1. Ruan Mei, for example, is also really nice with hypercarries. Yeah, they won't be beating Sparkle in a solo harmony spot, but they do just fine. So next, people asked a bunch about pairings. One common one was Clara. With Sparkle, Clara Robin, and a sustain, I 5-cycled MOC 12 burst side, which has no physical weakness. Combining the fact that these dinos need to be broken to take proper damage, the fact that I used whack gear on her, and Sparkle lost a lot of advanced value, I'd say the pairing is pretty cool. The MSC buff does help nicely though. Unfortunately, the Sparkle Robin pairing loses Sparkle value unless it's a -1 speed Sparkle, and I didn't enjoy trying to fish for 135 speed on an already weak Clara. So maybe it's a basic skill rotation Bronya angle. I did test Clara, Robin, Ting Yuan, and it worked very nicely too versus Aventurine. Another was Jing Yuan with Robin as a replacement to Ting Yuan. If you have Sparkle Ting Yuan, I would just stick with that. You might be able to do cool things with Robin, but fast Sparkle is what you run with Jing Yuan, and that loses a lot of value with Robin pushing everyone up. You could try Robin, but then that's really tough on skill points. Robin's buffs are great for him, but his attacks aren't frequent, and I don't find any benefit from pulling specifically Robin for him. Robin March is cool too if you have the means of doing so. I 3-cycled Aventurine with March despite missing all of my freezes, but I did have Aventurine's Lycone on her to provide ample debuffs for ratio. It felt harder to play, I had to be more strategic with my SP, but I did make it work. You do get many more procs of Robin's additional damage, but 20 to 30k extra damage a Concerto isn't more than what Aventurine is doing for your team. Nonetheless, I think March is awesome with her if you want to try it out. Some peeps then asked about Lycones. This is all in my main guide, but yes, Bronya's is great. Yes, her free-to-play signature is good. Yes, her paid signature is good. And yes, Carve can be okay on her if you RNG the energy one when she ults for Concerto, otherwise the buffs are kind of weak. I prefer Bronya's signature over the free-to-play signature too because of that energy you are getting, and the occasional SP is nice to help with the fact that singing does not generate SP. Now people are asking when my new album is, when I will welcome you to my world, etc. And all I can say is subscribe and press that bell notification if you want to be there when my next album, It's Gobin Time, drops for real. And then despite my lengthy section in my guide, I got asked a lot about Dot. Is she the best for Dot? Is she better than Ruan Mei? I'd say she can clear faster than Ruan Mei in the best Dot teams due to that advance. But the moment you go past a 0 to 1 cycle clear, Ruan Mei is stronger, comfier, and easier to use. Remember when people were doubting Ruan Mei's strength? Well, it's happening again with Robin. Yes, Dot units build a ton of attack, but 1000 attack is still 1000 attack. You don't need to pull Robin for Dot, and you shouldn't if you're already rocking Ruan Mei. If you don't have Ruan Mei, you can use Robin for Dot, which is really nice. Another thing you can do is use Robin in the place of Ruan Mei if you want to swap her over to a break team. And some people wanted me to evaluate more how she runs with Ruan Mei. The thing is, both of them are mostly catering to dual DPS, so if you want to run both for Hypercarry, go ahead, but I prefer something like Bronya Robin if you have the SP, or Tingyun Robin. If you want to run them both for dual DPS, you then have to run no sustain, and that works fine if you are that advanced into the endgame. And then if you want to run both of them for a single DPS, I would run them both with a Hypercarry buff on top, meaning no sustain again. Something like Tingyun, Robin, Ruan Mei will make a Hypercarry go crazy, but so will 3 OP harmonies anyway before Robin. Now before we finish with DPS Robin, let's go over some bonus mechanics people were asking about. Guoba, Concerto has 90 speed, so Fleet and Spacing Station won't work, right? That is false. Concerto has 90 speed, but that does not alter Robin's speed and thus does not alter buffs based on her speed, like planar ornaments. You are safe. We wouldn't have recommended it if we didn't test it. Though, hopefully it sticks through to live. Can Robin steal energy and kills? Yes, as of right now. Despite the YouTube commenter that replied that she cannot, she can in fact steal kills and thus energy. This is just like Ruan Mei's break damage, which can steal kills too, so I doubt it will change. This means if your Zealer is a bit weaker or the enemy is too tanky, she can steal Resurgence away too. On Zealer runs, I didn't notice the kill stealing since Zealer was just one-tapping enemies with those massive Robin buffs. Her stealing energy is good outside of DPS turns though, so having a unit like your sustain basic attack a weak enemy and letting her gain a free 10 energy is really nice to be honest. And remember, her additional damage is additional damage. It doesn't register as ult damage or follow-up damage, it's just a weird additional damage type. I tested with Inert Salsoto, and it gives us the same damage with and without the bonus. And since Concerto attacks have the crit and crit damage, I had to test with the crit rate chest. This is because we don't get the bonus without 50% crit rate on her, because it's the attacks that have the crit, not Robin herself. And finally, we will look at Robin DPS, or what I call the Infinite Singing Team. This sees us going for someone like Tingyun to generate energy for a permanent Robin ult, as well as buffers for her damage. I went Aventurine on top for his great sustain and constant follow-ups, as well as S1's vulnerability. Huo's energy is not needed. I also went Bronya since her skill could give a permanent damage percent to Robin during Concerto, since she won't be advanced, whilst also advancing her outside of Concerto if needed. She can also hit 3 attacks per Concerto due to her talent's advance forward. I got a 4 cycle clear versus Aventurine, which is pretty nice for an E0 S1 Harmony unit. And then I did it with an E6 Robin just to see the possibilities. 1 cycle clear on Aventurine. Pretty fun stuff. I also tried No Sustain, but Aventurine dunked on me, though I saw basic attack hits of 250k, which is not bad. I would run attack percent boots on Robin as usual, as going high speed does literally nothing for DPS Robin. And if I see you running 160 speed to get Glamathon Robin, enjoy losing a main stat worth of attack percent for 6% damage. Since you are running her for instant and infinite ults too, speed past 120 for planar ornaments does not matter. Anyways, I hope this helped with your questions. Like and sub if it did, and let me know below what you think of Robin after these two videos. Thank you so much to my amazing YouTube members, thanks for watching, and have a good day.